Hello and good evening, and welcome all of you to yet another chapter of our global event. And today we will have a wonderful discussion ahead on our topics from bits to qubits, as you can see on the screen. And before we begin our session, let me introduce myself. I am Manali Chaudhary Shengupto. I essentially look after NDLI Club. This is another service of National Digital Library of India. And as you all know, and my target audience, my viewers, they are quite acquainted with this format and this session, the way we do. And we do different sorts of discussions on this platform of National Digital Library of India. And we do these events in association with Wills Global Foundation of India. Before we begin our discussion and go to our actual discussion, let me just have a quick look on NDLI because it's a duty for me to let my audience just to remember, what we are doing and what is our approach for National Digital Library. So you can see it's a knowledge asset that we are trying to, this is our objective. We try to look at it just like that it's our own asset. It's asset for our country. There is a single window platform providing learning resources that make e-learning and education accessible to all. So irrespective of any geographical boundaries, education has to be accessible to everybody in this country. So that is the one of the major mottos we have taken up and initiated as a pilot project in 2015. So this is the 10th year we are running. And NDLI portal was nationally launched on 19th June 2018 and 2018 and successfully completed phase 1 and phase 2, and now we are in the phase 3 of this project. Okay, so we have launched NDLI 3 version very recently, and we are again working on it for the betterment of this particular portal. And as you can see a glimpse at NDLI, very important factor here, it is absolutely free. No, it is not, no IIT Kharagpur nor Ministry of Education, nobody is charging a single penny for providing this service to the countrymen. So whatever service you are getting from National Digital Library of India and also NDLI Club, it comes absolutely free. So the total contents, we have 13 crore plus, and of course we do have some nationally licensed contents. We have 450 providers who are providing us the contents. User, we have 94 lakh, and also we have set up 16.6 thousand clubs, NDLI clubs across India, across the country. And contents are available in 39 Indian languages out of 423 languages in NDLI platform itself, and contents covering various subjects. So I personally call it from KG to PG and beyond, by which I mean kindergarten to post-graduation and beyond. By beyond, I mean that it's for the lifelong learners and those who are into the researchers, those who are into the research. So this is having a huge variety of contents, and currently provides cloud hosting facility to 31 institutions and remote assistance to 150 institutions having challenges with IDEA. And we have conducted different sorts of seminar workshops, and we have trained the library professionals by visiting to the institution, by doing the physical activities, and also very often we do the online trainings. And as you can see that NDLI Club, as I said, that's one of the major services that we are providing to the school and colleges. And this is very much aligned with NEP 2020, where the focus was given on the having clubs. So having clubs means you are putting emphasis on the activity-oriented learning. So, and by which we also want to sharpen the skill of the students, and also we want to engage them in NDLI's vast the resources. The more you engage the students in NDLI's verse resources, the more fruitful your NDLI club will be. So that is the whole idea. And as you can see, this is the statewide statistics, and Maharashtra is doing significantly well in entire India in terms of having club, engaging students, and also faculties and doing regular activities, and also making students and new students aware about what is NDLI and NDLI club. And as you can see, 6,700 clubs we have already set up very recently. So total number of user awareness, we have done 800 plus. Number of offline workshop, we have done 75. And international workshop, we have done 3 from our platform. And national workshops, we have done total 5. And IDEA workshops, that is workshops on institutional digital repository, the count is 32. So these are the awards and accolades we have received from different, platform in different times. And mostly we have, the amount of delivery we have given to the society, that was during the pandemic. And we got a huge appreciation since then, and it is continuing. So this is all about, NDLI and NDLI Club, and our motive is to learn, grow, and share. So with this idea, our journey began. And now let me straight away go to the main session. And I know that you all are waiting for today's discussion. And to do so, let me welcome my moderator of this session, that is Ms. Sujata Roy, and I call her as Sujata Di. It's my honor to welcome you to this event. And just very quick brief on Sujata Di's profile. She has done MSc in Physics from IIT Kharagpur, postgraduate in Computer Science from Indian Statistical Institution, that is ISI Kolkata, CQA from Quality Assurance Institute, USA, and spent most of her career in the corporate IT sector working with various private and multinational organizations till she finally retired from IBM as a general manager. So she was the general manager in IBM. And after retirement, she has been actively involved in various IIT alumni activities, as well as voluntary activities to give back to society and a nation at large. So she is voluntarily working, in different sectors, and that is also her priority. Currently, she is the president of Wheels Global Foundation India and a board member, and she has also served as chief operating officer here in NDLI for more than 8 years. So now, Sujatati, the entire session is in your hand. Thank you.
Thank you, Manali, for the kind introduction. Hello, everyone. I feel really privileged to be introducing our today's speaker, Mr. Abhijit Roy, who comes with a huge knowledge base of quantum computing, the topic for the day. Abhijit has spent over a quarter of a century in the information technology industry in leadership roles at PwC, IBM, Wipro, and Ericsson. And that is, and my association with Abhijit goes back to his PwC and IBM days. His primary role in Wipro and Ericsson has been that of a technology explainer in artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, 5G, and generative AI. He's presently engaged in developing thought leadership initiatives for Praxis Technology School and Praxis Business School, in addition to leading their social media brand positioning strategies. Abhijit is also a member of the Expert Committee on Innovation, Technology and Advancement of the Indian Chamber of Commerce, where again we work together. So welcome to the session, Abhijit, and we do look forward to listening to you over the next maybe about 45 minutes and enrich ourselves with the knowledge that you bring to the fore.
Thank you, Sujata. It's been a wonderful introduction, and it's a pleasure knowing you for all these years. And I feel deeply honored to be invited to this forum to speak on a subject which is not complex.
Very close to your heart. And very close to your heart.
Yeah, very close to my heart. It's very fascinating, and it unfolds every moment. So it's a voyage of discovery, a continuous voyage of discovery. So which makes it more, and because the pathway is not very clear, and that's what makes such voyages so interesting.
Correct.
So,
Okay, so let's get started with the main session. And before that, let me just, this is a word for the audience. As the session progresses, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box and we will be taking them up during the Q&A session at the end of the presentation. So the topic for today is Bits to Qubits, the Dawn of Quantum Age. As Abhijit, as you know, the United Nations has proclaimed 2025 as the International Year of Quantum Science and Technology. I suppose the objective is to highlight the transformative potential of quantum science, celebrate the centenary of quantum mechanics. Yes, it has completed 100 years, and increase global awareness and cooperation in the field. Now, in your opinion, how important do you think is quantum computing in today's era?
quantum, the importance of quantum can not be, expressed so simply, because we are all in a voyage of sort of discovery. In many ways, we're trying to figure out as to what is going to happen. And 2025 marks 100 years since the publication of papers by physicists like Heisenberg, who laid the groundwork of modern quantum physics. The year is intended to demystify quantum science, which can be complex and perhaps makes the general public more comfortable with the potential societal impacts. The United Nations also aims to boost global R&D in quantum technologies, from computing to communication materials and science. In fact, India has leapt into this bandwagon and has several initiatives ongoing, including major investments from the central government on quantum computing projects. From where I'm sitting today, about 10 kilometers away, there is a company which is in the Salt Lake Electronic Complex, which has a quantum computer, one qubit computer. And I was privileged to see that machine from the outside of the room, because inside the room, the temperatures are such that it is near freeze. It's below freezing.
Below
And
freezing.
you get a frostbite if you step into the room. So quantum really is something very fascinating. And so if I move into the presentation, just give me a minute. I'll manage the slides. And here, okay. So, sorry. So I keep getting this question at different forum, how real is quantum? Because to wrap our minds around the concept of quantum is really boggles the mind, actually. And in 1981, in an event in MIT, people were trying to discuss this physics and quantum physics, and this led to Richard Feynman, the famous Nobel laureate and physicist, the bongo player, also, who expressed his frustration and said, "My God, the world is quantum. The world runs in quantum. And so why are you talking about the classical physics when the world is in quantum physics?" And that is when the movement started. He said, "Let's build a quantum computer." So that it was easier said than done. And that's part of the movement. The real movement sparked off in 1981 from MIT labs. So what essentially, and in the timeline as I see, because I get this question very often at different forums, as to how real is quantum, because the concepts are really so fuzzy that people refuse to believe that we can really have a quantum computer that can solve mathematical equations which currently take an impractical number of years, like 10,000 years to solve it using the classical computer, which a quantum computer can solve in minutes. Now, that's almost impossible to get your mind around it. So how will things happen? So this is what has happened. And from the timelines I see, 2029, 2030, 2035, these are the three timelines that I can see before when actually we will see the quantum computer, the fruits of quantum computing coming into action. And IBM has put out their own timeline, which is 2029, 2030. Others have said it stretched it a little bit. Google has said that they'll be around 2035. So the next decade, from 2025 to 2035, I see momentous things happening. And that's when we are going to see the real power happening. By the end of this year also, we will see major developments. So quantum has become a reality, and companies are already started to use quantum computing. And in fact, it has set up a global race between countries. We saw the race for atomic power after the World War. We saw the space race. We saw the race for artificial intelligence, which is now going on between nations, between continents, between regions. And now we are going to enter the quantum supremacy race. So this is very real. This is happening, and you will see the fruits of it. So let me launch into the presentation. If it's okay with Sujata, should I step into the presentation? Okay,
Yes, please. Yeah.
So this is the first slide, and this is the machine. It's called the machine that you see, the picture that you see on your right-hand side of the screen. It is called the chandelier. It's the IBM coinage. So the chandelier. We'll have another slide which explains what this machine is all about. Now, what is quantum physics? Now, I was struggling for the last week or so, trying to figure out a metaphor which people like me understand. Sujata is a physicist, and we have lots of physicists in this in IIT who understand it very easily. But for people like me, I find, I was struggling to get an appropriate metaphor to explain. Now, then it struck me that I love music. I love jazz is my favorite. So blue jazz, New Orleans jazz. In fact, I went down to New Orleans once to listen to jazz and take a trip down the Mississippi in one of those Cajun boats, which Mark Twain wrote his famous book, Tom Sawyer. Okay, so I took a trip down there and listened to jazz music on the boat, on the Mississippi Cajun Queen, the steamer, that steamship. So quantum is like, if we compare with music, if we have a metaphor, the ragas, the orchestral music, the Vienna orchestra, the Beethovens, the Bachs and all, that's the classical music. It's very well formatted, very well structured. In fact, Bach is said to be very close to maths. Classical maths and Bachs, they have a very lot in common. Very well structured, very neatly structured. The laws are very definite. You know what is going to happen next. So that's classical music. And then suddenly you have a jazz group coming in. Each musician starts playing their own thing. There's nobody, nobody knows who's going to play the next. But as they play, they start, responding to each other. And in a way, music evolves. So if quantum is the classical computing, then jazz is, if the classical computing is the ragas and the traditional orchestral music, then quantum is jazz. And as I looked through, Zakir Hussain, who unfortunately passed away last year, Zakir Hussain's tabla has been compared while he adheres to the classical music, he follows the rules of Drupad, which is the classical music. But when he starts playing, he breaks away from the tradition and he crafts his own music and he innovates constantly. So in a way, Zakir Hussain, you can say, is quantum, while the classical music, the ragas, the Drupads, is the classical computing. The most interesting part is that the world as we know it today, which follows definite rules of physics, the Newtonian physics, which follows, quantum is going to be completely different. We do not know what awaits us. So, I mean, in a way, so that is the most fascinating part of it. Classical physics is like a map with clear paths, while quantum is like a foggy forest whose paths appear as you walk. So that is where things happen. Now, what does it mean basically? It means that, for instance, some certain concepts of quantum are very strange, and it's an incredible feeling to know that, that, for instance, entanglement, the quantum property of entanglement, which is in the, I mean, what can it do for us? So I'll move back and forth. So classical bits of computer is like a switch. It can be either off and on. But if you use a dimmer, where there can be several possibilities between off and on. So while traditional physics is very definite, there are only two possibilities, either on or either off. Quantum offers an array of possibilities and probabilities of which possibility is the most likely to happen. So can you imagine that? Let's use another example. Suppose you left your key in your house, and your house is 10 rooms, and you forgot your car keys in the room, and you ask a classical computer to find your keys. It will search every room one after the other and then find your keys. Now, if you do it in the quantum way, it will start searching simultaneously all the rooms simultaneously, and will hit on the highest probability, okay, and find your room. So can you imagine the kind of speed that's going to happen? Now, that is what makes things more fascinating. So this is not just about speed. There's another fascinating property which I can explain through, not explain, or attempt to explain. If I say I can explain stuff like this, then people will laugh at me, because Feynman once said that if anybody says that he understands quantum and can explain it, then he is lying. So I don't want to be caught, lying. So its fascinating part is that it's like a jugalbandi. A jugalbandi that is playing across distances, mind-blowing, celestial distances, you can say. A qubit behaves in one way in a certain place, and apparently unconnected, a qubit in another place, which can be thousands of miles away. It mimics the behavior of each other, or it acts as if they're in a conversation with each other. So, like jugalbandi played across continents. Zakir Hussain playing tabla here, and somebody, Yudi Menuhin, playing his violin in Paris, and they are speaking to each other without knowing what each other is playing, but they seem to know each other. That is the most fascinating part of it. Things which can be apparently off or on. As a child, I was very fascinated by, we come from a very modest background in North Calcutta, and we didn't have a fridge for a long time, a refrigerator. So when a fridge came to our house, a common fridge for everybody, okay, so I was fascinated by something. Is the fridge light on when the fridge is closed? So each time I opened the door, the light came on. But when I closed the door, I didn't know whether it was on or off. And there was no means of knowing whether the fridge light is on or off when the fridge is closed. Now, this is a famous experiment which I later learned. My childhood curiosity led me to find out it was the Schrodinger's cat. Schrodinger wanted to know whether the cat is alive or dead when the box is closed. But when you open the box, the cat has lost its quantum property of being both dead and alive at the same time, and it is either dead or alive. So when you observe the quantum property, it loses its quantumness. It loses that state of either being on or off. So that is what gives it a fascinating property. So that opens up possibilities. It can be anything in between. Very often, there's another example is a spinning coin. When a coin has been spun, as it is spinning in the air, it is either heads or tail, or either heads or tail. The moment it lands, then it is head or tail. It has lost its quantum property. But to maintain that state of that every possibility is a possibility or a probability, that is very difficult to maintain. And that's one of the biggest challenges that quantum people who work in quantum are trying to solve. And when it gets solved, you will have these possibilities of exploring things simultaneously. Now imagine what is happening. So you imagine, the famous example is drug discovery. Now, as you know, a clinical trial of a drug from the lab to the shop where you can buy a medicine, it almost takes a decade and a half. Costs billions and billions of dollars for a medicine to from trial runs to hit the shop floors and the hospitals where you can get administered. Now, and why is that happens? Because you are trying every option one after the other to see if it meets that requirement. But imagine if you had quantum. Then what happens is that this trial runs can be collapsed into weeks, into days, into hours even. It sounds very fascinating, but it is possible. So when you have a clinical trial which takes a decade or a decade and a half, and the same thing happening in a matter of weeks or months, you can imagine what can happen. It's a fascinating world that's opening up. For instance, high frequency trading of stock markets. You apply that in fintech, the possibilities of finding out whether your bet on a certain stock is right or wrong, or which way the economy is going to move. Quantum physics can make that, so easy that it just boggles the mind. And that's what is going to happen. Quantum teleportation. If qubits are behaving separated by distances of huge distances, millions of miles, thousands of miles, behaving in the same way, therefore you can have quantum teleportation, not the physical part of it. I'm not going to be physically teleported from Kolkata to San Francisco, but the properties can be teleported instantaneously. This can transform communication. In fact, the government of India is experimenting with this kind of a communication, which is military scale communication of corporate of corporate and economic communication that will use quantum and will be completely safe from being tampered with, and because it will be instantaneous and be very highly protected. But at the same time, the flip side is that why I'm talking about the advantages, the disadvantage is that, take for instance a malicious actor. Now today, to break a password, he has to try one option after the other by using brute force, and that takes time. So if you have a very secure line of communication or a secure password, it will take, for a malicious actor, it will take time to break. And you may be alerted by the time it is somebody's trying to break it, and you can take precaution. But imagine the malicious actor with his hands on a quantum computer. He can use it simultaneously to try millions of possibilities of passwords and hit on the right password that you have been using. It will take him just nanoseconds. He can break through it. But at the same time, quantum safe communication is also being experimented. It's always a game of cat and mouse. How do you step 2 steps ahead of the malicious actor? So the government of India has launched because in today's world, warfare's the first hint of a war beginning is when your digital assets are under attack. The first hint is that enemy country is attacking your digital assets, your economic assets. It's trying to bring them down, your stock market, your economic assets, your central bank, your banking transactions. And that is why these assets need to be protected with quantum safe communications. So quantum cryptography is a subject that is coming up, rapidly, and that's a career opportunity. For cybersecurity specialists, that's a career opportunity. It's a huge career opportunity to how to protect the digital, because the digital economic assets today are as powerful as the physical economic assets. It's as powerful, as strong as a bridge or a building or a road infrastructure. So that is, I mean, imagine the banking infrastructure itself. We do all our banking through our telephone or mobile phones. So that's a digital system. So imagine if somebody attacked it and suddenly our banking transactions stopped. Billions of dollars, trillions of dollars of economic value can be lost in minutes. Quantum is therefore is one of the ways. Quantum entanglement, as I said, is when instead the jugalbandi that is happening. So that is what is quantum. So let me go back a little bit and see what it can do. We talked about drug discovery. We talked about fintech, logistics. Logistics is actually already being used. When the tariff war broke out, when Trump started his madness of imposing tariffs on every country under the world, and people didn't know what to do, and goods were in motion in high seas. Trillions of dollars of goods moved on high seas. I mean, from India, from China, from Japan, goods were moving towards the US. They were going to Chicago port, they were going to New York, they were going to all the US ports. And suddenly, the customs of those countries, they said that no, you have tariffs. So if the moment you land, you will have to go through new customs. And there was a lot of logjam happening in these ports. So Maersk, Hapag-Lloyd, these shipping companies, they started using quantum. They started using quantum to figure out which port to go, how do you reroute your ship so that they don't go to the ports that where there is a logjam, but go to ports which are less freer, or go to ports where the customs are not imposing these, because different rules were applying different places. So how do you reconfigure your shipping routes? So they started using logistics in quantum. Cybersecurity, as I told you, India government is already working on that. Artificial intelligence. So when AI and quantum come together, as you will see, the next stage of hybrid computing, when that's going to happen, that will put up another huge field. And in every field, there is massive amount of economic opportunities opening up, massive amount of career opportunities. And those who are preparing themselves today will find that in the next 24 months to 36 months, they will be, starting to look at opportunities, exciting career opportunities for themselves. So as you can see in the slide, that there are 2 trillion potential economic value from quantum computing in 2035. That's from McKinsey. Global energy, materials, pharmaceuticals, medical products. Imagine, new kinds of material sciences, because how the molecules are being managed, arranged to create new materials. Quantum is able to find out in a matter of, hours, days, weeks, instead of years of research. So that is going to happen. Travel, transport, logistics. Just imagine you are only limited by your imagination. As I said in the beginning, that quantum is like a path that is opening up as you step forward. There is no defined path. Unlike classical physics, where their rules are very defined, the world of quantum and subatomic particles, atoms behave in a group in a definite way. Sujata, you'll be able to help me on this. How do atoms behave? But subatomic particles, their behaviors are still being found out by people as to how are they behaving. And that behavior is opening up possibilities. So you see what. So let's look at the kind of possibilities that are happening. March 2025, IonQ. There are 3 companies I will ask you, viewers and listeners to watch out for. One is IonQ, one is D-Wave, D-Wave, and the other is Rigetti or Rigetti. Correct my pronunciation. These are the 3 companies that are making milestones in quantum computing. You should keep a constant watch out and visit their websites every day, read their research papers, read their findings, read their announcements to see where it is taking us. NVIDIA has announced what the chip. They said we had CPUs, we had GPUs. Now we have neural processing units, NPUs, and the next will be the quantum chips that are coming out from NVIDIA. 2025, Spain launches the first national quantum strategy, backed by Euro $800 million. Quantum Internet Alliance. The internet itself is going to be quantum based. That's going to be mind blowing. DARPA, that's a US defense agency. announced cooperation with nearly 20 quantum companies for its quantum benchmarking. The world, there is a geopolitical world between China and the US and the rest of the world, in EU also, which is saying that whichever country or region has quantum technologies will lead the next few hundred years. That is 2025. IBM announced its plans to invest more than 30 billion in R&D to enhance IBM's American manufacturing and mainframe quantum computers. IBM has a timeline of coming out with a quantum computer by 2029. They're doing great deals. So what has happened? So while we are waiting for quantum to happen, to unfold, the intermediate step will be a hybrid quantum. Hybrid quantum is that, are we going to, because the quantum machine, as you see, is very expensive. And technologically, it is very, very complex thing to keep that stable, the stability of this quantum property of either being off or on, or having millions of possibilities between the two states is a very complex task and not so easily achievable by corporates. Okay, so therefore, the intermediate step will be, there will be very large organizations like IBM, NVIDIA, and others who will be achieving this quantum state, but certain parts of it will be allowed to be used in our classical computing, the kind of desktop that I'm using, where we will be using certain bits and parts of quantum computing processing facilities borrowed from these large universal computing systems, universal quantum systems, and we'll have a hybrid quantum. And that is already happening. As I said in the earlier slides, that we have JP Morgan doing fintech using quantum. We have, which is why they make those trillions of dollars. We have the Hapag-Lloyds and the Maersk, the shipping companies, using quantum. We have drug discovery companies like Bayer, which are using quantum to find out new drugs. Volkswagen is already using quantum for real-time logistics. This is scalable. HSBC's hybrid quantum approach uses quantum stimulators to run machine learning algorithms, showing immediate performance gains. And they're finding fraudulent transactions in a matter of nanoseconds. Because HSBC is a global organization. Billions of transactions happening every second. And to find which transactions have the properties of a fraudulent transaction is a mind-blowing task, which is almost impossible for a classical computer. A classical computer can find it, but by the time they have found it, the fraud would have happened. Okay, so to find out within nanosecond that this transaction, it's finding the needle in the haystack every time. So quantum has this skill of finding a needle. It is actually a needle finder in a haystack. So you're no longer looking through the billions of transactions. It is just finding out those transactions, which shows the properties of being a high probability of billions of possibilities of fraudulent transaction and few probabilities of actual fraudulent transaction. Actually, it is not a matter of finding out those billions of possibilities of fraudulent transaction. It is the probability of 2%. To find that 2%, or 1.5%, or 0.5% probability that can be fraudulent, which can cost you billions of dollars. It is not about finding, 99.99 likely fraudulent transaction. It is finding that 0.1%, which is actually a fraudulent transaction that can be. So it is not about putting up a 99% success rate. It is the success. I'm talking about success rates of several times after a decimal point. That is because that small percentage, that fraction percentage, can cost you billions of dollars in fraud. So HSBC is using it, and they're successful. They have published matrix which shows that the kind of fraudulent that they have been able to detect. Now, this is on your right hand side of the screen. This is a quantum computer design. It's called a chandelier design. Temperatures are mind blowing, and it's like outer space temperatures. It's 273.14 degrees centigrade or 100 millikelvins. I do not know. I mean, Sujata, you might have an idea as to what kind of cold is this, but I was told not to enter that room. And if I do, I mean, I have to be given special spacesuit, like like apparel, to so that I don't get a frostbite. In any case, I didn't venture. I mean, it was good enough to look at it from afar and do my pranam. And okay, fine, I see it. Okay, and so that's good enough for me. So this is the quantum design that you will see in the future. So, and the kind of things that we talked about was cybersecurity. And revolutionize cryptography by solving complex cryptographic problems currently considered infeasible for classical computers. Drug discovery, we spoke about. Financial modeling, we did. Quantum computing can accelerate machine learning training, handle bigger data sets, solve problems that are currently impossible for classical machines. In fact, they said Google said that something very interesting. Let me revert to my teleprompter. Okay, so just give me a minute. I must have pressed the wrong buttons. Okay, so, yeah, okay, I got it.
Abhijit, as I listen to you with, I mean, I'm totally absorbed in this whole thing, all the background, the work that's happening. We learned
uh-huh.
about classical, you said classical computer, and again, quantum computing, about hybrid, what you said, where
Yes,
which is a combination of classical computing with quantum processor, right?
classical machines
And the
running quantum.
running quantum, correct.
Yes,
And
yes,
the
that's right.
temperature that you're talking about, like even colder than deep space, gosh, and that's really something. And I'm sure that is making it very, very difficult to build a quantum computer, right? Maintaining
Absolutely,
that temperature. So,
absolutely.
so with this knowledge
Yeah,
that we
please
have
go ahead.
just picked up from you, can you tell us about the possible use cases of quantum computing?
Yeah, we will come to it in the next slides. Yeah, actually, that's one of the challenges to achieve that kind of a. I mean,
Temperature.
I mean, temperature. The outer space like temperature is one of the challenges. The other is that they're keeping the stability. Okay, and there are very fascinating stories. But the race has become so. I mean, in 2019, Google's quantum team announced it had achieved quantum supremacy. The 53 qubit processor Sycamore performed a specific esoteric calculation in 200 seconds. Now, Google said that, um, this would take the world's most super powerful supercomputer Summit approximately 10,000 years to complete. Now, IBM, which had built Summit, immediately questioned the claim. They argued that with better classical algorithms and storage, Summit could solve the problem in 2.5 days, 2.5 days, not 10,000 years. Now, this debate is going on. Now, as Sujata, as you mentioned, that achieving that kind of a cryogenic temperatures, yeah, one of the biggest challenges. The other is that, maintaining that stability. So a quantum engineer once told a story about the team's struggle with noise in their qubits. They checked and rechecked everything. Finally, somebody realized, I mean, so a problem is the janitor's cart. The metal cart was stored in the lab, in the hallway near the lab. It had a magnetic signature. Metals, as you know, they give out magnetic signatures. It was very small, nobody can even detect it. But that small signature was causing the quantums to lose its stability. That property of being entangled and the property of being either off and on, it was losing its stability. So the solution was not building another algorithm or a mathematical problem, but move the janitor's cart to somewhere down the hall where the signals were not not interfering. So these are some of the challenges that are coming up. While just give me a minute. Yeah. So these are some of the challenges that. So let's move on to some of the. This is the timeline that we set. 25 to 2023, 4,000 qubit quantum centric supercomputer. That's IBM's plan. Google by 2029, 53 qubit Sycamore quantum supremacy. Microsoft 25 to 35. Majorana 1 processor was already introduced a few months ago. Goal to build 1,000,000 qubit scale fault-tolerant quantum computers. So the next 25 to 2030, 2035, you can see in your screen, this is a fascinating period. Friends, listeners, and everybody, be ready. Quantum is coming. Quantum is real. You can build an entire career. Sujata was one of the earliest who entered computer science. At that time, she was telling me one day that it was not even a full degree. Well, isn't it, Sujata?
Yeah, correct. They
Yeah.
used to give postgraduate diploma in computing science at ISI as well as Jadavpur. So
Yes.
not even a degree.
Not even a degree. That was that
They-
period when she stepped into computer science. Today
Later on,
we
it
are,
got converted to MTech. So, and that's better.
that's better. So
Yeah,
Sujata, you know how you made your career in computer science by being there at the right point, at the right moment, at the right
thank
time, and you learned it. And so therefore today I'm telling you guys that today whosoever steps into this field will be there at the right moment, the right time.
you. Right.
Even a week later will be late. But the way things are moving, even if you are saying that I'll do it by the end of this year, you might be late. So step in now. This is the timeline that you see before. This is the timeline that is realistic. Okay, give it plus or minus 1 or 2 years. All these things, because this is already happening. The technological challenges, as we said, is the maintaining qubit coherence. Coherence means that possibilities which gives us this probabilities of having so many possibilities. That stability, that maintaining that, reducing the error rates, correcting error rates, building quantum computers with so many qubits and keeping them working well together is very challenging. Cold environments, high connectivity interconnects, materials and fabrication. It needs special kind of materials to handle these kind of coherence, cold temperatures, error rates, etc. So all these softwares have to be different. So entire thing is just evolving before our eyes. This is happening. This is happening now as we speak. And this is. Tell me if I'm overshooting my time. Do I have
No, I think
time?
it's fine. So, yes. So now maybe we can go to the next part of the session. We talked
Sure.
about challenges, and I can see there are too many challenges still to be overcome,
Too many
and
changes.
all the big companies like IBM, Microsoft, Google, all are in a race to be there. Now,
And the
what kind
government,
of
government
roles?
also.
Yeah, government, of course, very much. Now, given this as the background, what kind of roles do we anticipate for the audience who is here now in the quantum workforce? And what could be their possible educational opportunities as well?
Very valid question. Very, very valid questions. This is the quantum workforce, by the way. You have engineering, you have information technologies. Basics will never go out of fashion. Unless you understand basic physics, you will not understand quantum physics. First, you have to know what is the basic, what is physics. Only then you will be able to
That's
understand what is quantum physics. Because if physics says that everything is bound by rules and quantum said no, at the subatomic level, the rules are not holding true. Where a light can be both a particle and a wave. The duality of it, that is makes it what's more interesting. Then if it is a wave and a particle, can light be bended? Can we bend light? Yes, we can. Yes, we can. There is nothing that we cannot. Research, business development, people like me who are trying to understand can make a career out of business development with quantum opportunities, solving the challenges that were thought to be deemed to be unsolvable few years ago. Now, with quantum, you can possibly solve those. Music, in fact, even music is going to be transformed with quantum. I had a slide which I pushed back because that takes me into a different tangent because I love music, and so I restrained myself from talking about it. Arts and design, entrepreneurship, product management, everything. So the top three roles in quantum workforce is engineering, information technology, and research. They account for almost half, reflecting industry. STEM skills are very important. But STEM,
Abhijit, do you have a slide on this, on the roles of the workforce?
this
Because
is the slide. No, I don't
I
see
don't
that
see
slide.
it. I
No,
don't
I didn't
see
see
it.
that. I didn't see.
So,
I dropped that slide because while that was a mistake. While trimming it down, that slide got chopped off right, by mistake.
oh, is
Anyway,
it?
yeah.
Okay.
So, but in
Anyway,
this
please
slide,
carry on.
so you need the three roles. Is, as I said, is that engineering is a must, as I see here. Information technology and research. There will be half of it. STEM skills are absolutely must, but STEM, if you spell it with STEAM, the A stands for arts. So, philosophy, quantum is a lot about philosophical thinking. It opens the mind to philosophical possibilities, a range of possibilities. Because the trained physical mind will think of only a plus or a minus or an on or off possibilities. But the artistic mind, the philosophical mind will think of endless possibilities that can happen. So, Steve Jobs was not an engineer by profession, he was a designer. But he created some of the finest products that we have seen, the Da Vinci of our times, because he was philosophical in his thinking. So, critical thinking, critical thinking will give you the ideas of how you can look at a problem in a new way to solve it. And things, the physical world limited your opportunities, but the quantum world will open up the possibilities. So, from two possibilities, we are entering an incredible world of multiple possibilities. Multiple means the mind will boggle the number of possibilities that we can have, each possible with the quantum physics and quantum computing. So that is what is going to happen. As I said, in cryptography, I mean, you can create almost unbreakable passwords. At the same time, by the moment you have created it, somebody else is going to break it also. So this cycle will keep on going. And that is a fascinating. University is increasingly offering quantum specialized graduate program. Time to get into quantum is now, not December, not 2026, 2025, now. Don't wait. Just get into it now. It is sales, into everything. From business development. If you want to get into business development of quantum, try and understand what is quantum. Which are the problems it will going to solve. You don't have to be a quantum engineer, but you have to know. You have to become quantum literate. You have to be fluent in quantum and understanding the kind of things that it can deliver, the solutions it can deliver in IBM and in Ericsson or in Wipro or wherever you are. There were certain roles which were technical roles. They created technical solutions. They were solution architects. But at the same time, they were business development roles. People who went into a company, went into a client company, understood the business challenges, and said that possibly this is how we can solve it. And then they came back to talk to the technical team as to what technologies can be applied to solve this. So so there are immense number of possibilities for every design, arts, everything. You can think of multiple design possibilities now. So, and this is what is going to happen. So this brings us to the end of the presentation. I hope we are on time this time. Last time I had overshot my presentation by several minutes. And so this time, so I'm now open to questions. And possibly we will try and answer them together, because this is something, a subject that is unfolding at a breakneck speed, at an incredible speed. It's a mind-boggling speed. So maybe we'll not have all the answers today, but this will open up the possibilities of finding the answers. It will make you curious. Curiosity is something that is always going to be very, very important, and that is a core skill. That's a core skill to develop. Be curious about quantum. Try and read up as much as you can. Try and listen to podcasts. Try and listen to the speeches that are happening. Some of them will be very difficult. It will be very dense. Subjects are very dense, but struggle through it. The initial days, you leaf through the pages and you'll not find them interesting, but keep at it. The only way to learn quantum, only way to understand quantum, only way to speak quantum is to keep at it. Okay. It is an incredible world that we are entering. It's a fascinating world. It's a world of possibilities. An immense number of innumerable possibilities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Abhijit. We will. I mean, that was really. You talked about mind-boggling speed, and I'm saying your whole presentation was mind-boggling. So much to learn. But I would now like to hand over to Manali to carry out the Q&A session.
Sure.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. And also, I mean, the session was so wonderful, and I could really feel that quantum supremacy is real. I have to admit that the way you have explained. So we are in an era where this supremacy is really going to be real, and truly they are real. Anyway, we have a very short time today, and now first question: how will quantum computing affect data security and privacy?
Yeah, that's one of the most important challenges that are facing the technological world and the business world right now, the business and the national security also. Because today, as I said during this speech, that to break into a password, you have to try different possibilities one after the other. And therefore it takes time. But in the quantum era, all possibilities will be tried at once and every password will be breakable but at the same time, quantum cryptography is developing as a science where you are building a password which is almost unhackable password. So governments are working. This is a very important government project actually. This is a DARPA project and this is a Ministry of Defense project in India where high-profile corporates, which will be given the quantum safe. Almost unbreakable communication facilities where they can transmit data across the country, across distances, which will be unhackable. This is a national priority. This is a corporate priority. Imagine if you can hack into your banking, your central bank system, you can bring down an entire country. If your reserve bank stops functioning for 5 minutes, it'll just be chaos. If you are unable to log into your bank to do transaction, or you find your assets being stolen, your money being stolen at the speed of quantum, it's unimaginable. Trillions of dollars can be lost. Your economy can be brought down to knees by these malicious actors. So quantum data security, as malicious actors will use quantum to break into these unbreakable codes. Similarly, governments and corporates will invest a huge amount of money in building secure quantum communication lines, and that's a career opportunity, as I said. So, Rick, I hope I have answered your question.
Next question that we have got, that what role does the classical computer play in a hybrid computing?
As I said, that hybrid computing is already happening. Companies like HSBC, Hapag-Lloyd, shipping companies like Maersk, companies like Bayer, pharmaceutical companies like Bayer, they are already using in the classical computers. They are using the quantum processes, the quantum technologies to speed up their operations. As I said, HSBC is finding fraud, and they are already using it from the billions of possible frauds. They are finding out the needle which has the highest probability of stealing billions, and their security is such that their accuracy is not 99%, but the accuracy is several times after a decimal point. So that's already happening. As I said, that shipping companies are using it to redirect their routes, create new kind of supply chains on the fly to circumvent these tariff disruptions or trade disruptions, because the world is going to be broken up into blocks. It's already been broken up into blocks. You have BRICS, you have SAARC, you have this, you have that, you have EU, you have US, different blocks. So the trading there'll be trade wars. It's already happening. So we need to figure out as to what kind of supply chain. Suppose you build up an automotive factory that depends on batteries from China, and China suddenly says that I'm going to stop sending batteries. So your entire automobile industry will collapse. your magnets will not come, which is already happening. And you have to find out a new source of a magnet. So a quantum computer will be able to find out where to get that source from. How do you secure that source so it is not disrupted? Even if you have found out plan B, you need to do plan C, plan D. And it can, and the classical computer will take years to find out plan C, plan D. But a quantum computer will do it in a matter of hours to create a new supply chain. That's already happening. It's hybrid computing is happening. Bayer is using it to, as I said, for drug discovery. They're bringing down research worth of decades into hours, into weeks. If I'm not being dramatic, into months actually, which is already happening. So you will see the next generation of drugs, maybe the world of cancer-free drugs or a vaccine that for cancer in the coming years. So that will set off another. If you have drugs which are curing the incurable diseases, almost incurable diseases, then that people will live longer. And if people live longer, then insurance companies will be starting to worry. Okay, governments will say that, oh my God, I have to pay so much of pension for people are living longer. So that sets off a social, tensions. Dibendu Chakraborty.
Yes,
How do you
one
pronounce your name? Dibendu Chakraborty. How does
Dupendu,
quantum?
right? How does quantum computing differ from classical computing in terms of speed and efficiency?
As I said, that classical computing tries out different possibilities one after the other. That is the basic difference. Quantum tries out all possibilities at the same time.
Yeah.
So that is the speed that you can imagine. As I use that example of you left your car key at home in a 10-room home, and the classical computer will check every room one after the other, while a quantum computer will check all rooms simultaneously and hit upon the highest probability. So you have to understand what is possibility and what is probability of a possibility. Okay, so that's very important. These are very confusing words. But they are not interchangeable. A possibility and a probability are not interchangeable. So
So these
next
are
question.
the three questions we got from our viewers, and now let us again go to Sujata Di, and it is very important for our viewers to know what is Wills Global Foundation and what sort of work you are really doing, Sujata Di. If you just let them know and enlighten them.
Sure. Thank you, Manali. So as you all know, this webinar is being conducted by NDLI in conjunction with Wheels Global Foundation. Wheels actually is an initiative by the alumni of all the IITs. It was established in 2006 in response to a challenge from the late President Abdul Kalam when he was in a Pan IIT program, and he said, "All of you have done very well for yourself. Now, why don't you do something to solve the big problems in the world?" And that's when many of the alumni from the different IITs, they came together and formed Wheels. And as of now, our family has expanded its reach, and now we have even doctors, lawyers, other professionals within its ambit. Basic objective is, of course, to engage the IIT system and alumni networks to drive technology-based solutions to solve the problems of rural India in terms of water, health, renewable energy, education, rural livelihood, and in a sustainable manner. So it's all the six spokes that which constitute Wheels, and we work in all these fields. It's a non-profit organization. All of us are volunteers here. In fact, what we are trying to do is we have put us a target of touching the lives of 20% rural India by 2030 by using technology. And we are working on that, and we are absolutely sure that it's not just meeting, but we will be able to surpass this target that we have set for ourselves. So anybody interested to be a volunteer, you're most welcome. And otherwise, yeah, we keep going. And in terms of Wheels Global Foundation, working hand in hand with NDLI, and that is where I think I would now like to hand it back to Manali.
Thank you so much, Sujata Di. And again, as I said, that time is over. So my special thanks to Abhijit sir for making this event so interesting, insightful, and thoughtful, of course. And my special thanks to Sujata Di for every time making this global event. You always take this to another level with inviting different sorts of
Right.
guests with so much speciality in their own subject. Thank you so much, and my special thanks to my
Thank you.
viewers because they are
Thank you.
steadily with us, and I was really happy to see the numbers today. So thank you so much for making
Thank you.
our global event very successful. Thank you
Thank
so
you for
much.
the opportunity. Thank you for
Thank
the
you.
opportunity. So shall we close this?